Olá, meus amores! Antes de tudo, gratidão por você estar presente para mais um conteúdo. Eu estou passando aqui rapidinho para lembrar de curtir agora esse vídeo, se inscrever no canal, ativar o sininho para não perder nenhum vídeo incrível que trazemos aqui para você. Combinado? Agora, apertem os cintos, entre na nave estelar e bora pra aventura!
Hello everyone, I have special guest today and we are going to talk about an amazing, wonderful subject. It's the portals in the islands of Hawaii. And for these amazing topics, I have three amazing people today. I have Kristen Starra, who is a fitness instructor and very adventurous woman. She had amazing experience there with portals. I introduced Kristen to you last year. I interviewed her about her experience. And of course, I have everyone knows about Miss Dani Henderson, the spiritual therapist and the organizer and the creator of JSIC, the Galactic and Spiritual Informers Connection. And that is something that changed the world last year in Orlando, and she's doing it again. She's doing it again. And Mr. Dim's device, Chris O'Connor, resident in Hawaii. You see the lovely color that he's having sun every day. He's enjoying Hawaii where he lives. So now everyone is introduced to you. I am going to ask Kristen to tell us a little bit about your experience when you were diving in Hawaii with portals.
Thank you, Elena. Hello, Danny. Hello, Chris.
Hi there.
But I was there for September 7th, 2006, when the event happened. So it was definitely a wow, moment for me. I knew I was going to Hawaii 2 weeks before I left. So it was literally like I just woke up and my soul was like, get ready, you're going to Hawaii. And I'm like, okay, I didn't have the time or the money or any of that. And it just literally, I had two friends call me a week later and say, hey, we're going to Hawaii, do you want to go? And so I ended up going. A week later, I was on the plane. And then on September 7th, I'm walking across a lava field. And I actually wasn't diving, I was snorkeling. So what ended up happening that day, the waves were breaking too hard to get into the ocean. So I just kept walking across the lava field. I'm really trying to speed this up, but I came back because it was getting hot. And right as I was getting ready to get off the lava field, I turned around and I looked back for whatever reason. And when I did, that's when it happened. So I had a moment of just being shot out of my body. That's the best way to describe it. And then the next moment I was standing on another world. And I'm looking out at a scene of water behind me, and I was standing on like red rocky cliff. Again, it was a blue star, so I knew it wasn't Earth. I knew just immediately I was somewhere else. I don't know what dimension, whatever, but yeah, it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. And I was awestruck by the feeling and what I was looking at because it was so different. But it was more of a feeling of going home. And that's what struck me. It was like I knew this place, and it felt so like just total unconditional love and connectedness to that place. And prior to that, I don't think I ever felt that on Earth. I didn't have that sense of connectedness or anchoredness or whatever on Earth. So anyway, and then very quickly was brought back into my body. And when that happened, it was like getting hit by lightning. That's the only way I could describe it. Falling forward to the ground. There was a lot of sensations in there that I was able to recall. It was like I went blind for a minute. I couldn't breathe. my heart felt like it had stopped. So I have a lot of questions about that because we talked about it being a consciousness projection, like projecting your consciousness onto another world. But I've had those types of remote view experiences where you can see through your eye, your third eye, and go somewhere else out and then come back. This was like very physical, but I didn't leave my body, so I don't have any answers to what this is. But coming back felt like it was astral. Sorry, someone just slammed the door. It scared me. It was very astral, the feeling of coming back, because every time I've ever astral out, it's like being defibrillated, whether I'm sleeping, it's electrical. And that's the feeling that I got coming back, but intensely. So yeah, I don't know if we want to stop there, if that's a good place to stop, but that's what happened. I was standing on Maui, next minute I'm standing on another planet, come back. I got to see another world and realize that Earth is not my home, I'm not from here, and that this is just crazy, because prior to that I didn't have any experience with any of that. So it was like my soul was trying to wake me up. It was like, wake up, it's time to wake up now, and get to it. And didn't have anybody to talk to about this either. So anyway, but a lot more happened. I have 2 hours and 15 minutes of missing time. Do you want me to just keep going, Elena, or do you want me to pause?
Yes, because you had two experience. So that is what you just described. It's when you were actually on the shore, on the lava bedrock, and then you had this experience of portal. But you had as well an experience in the water, which is very interesting. If you want, you can talk about this one as well, please.
Yeah, another strange thing that I guess only Hawaii, or there's places on the earth, I guess, that have this, but I didn't have any fear. When I finally stood up, I was literally looking out at the ocean, and I knew I wanted to go in, and that's why I had all my fins and my mask and everything with me, my water and a backpack, and I'm walking across the lava field, and I'm like, I'm going in. And I started to walk down, and I was putting all my stuff on, walking backwards into the water, and got up to about 3 feet, so I was a little above my knees, and the waves were coming over me. It was a weird day that day. I don't, because prior to that, everything had been really calm. So I don't know why the water was so kicked up, because it was beautiful, but it stopped. It just literally stopped. And I remember before that asking, I was like, grant me protection in the water. Show me what it is you want me to see. And then that's when the water just went and did this strange, like it just, the waves stopped. Usually it goes out and then it comes back in and then it goes out again. It just stopped. And that was my cue. And I turned over and I flipped out, started kicking out. So I had about a minute where I was able to I was looking for sea turtles. I was looking for all the stuff you'd see in Hawaii, but particularly sea turtles. Saw a few of those. Just really mesmerized, and then lights out. I just remember that was the last thing I saw. And then 2 hours and some change later, I wake up and I look up and I'm in deeper water, and the shore is way far away from me, and I don't remember. I don't have any recollection between when going in the water going flat, leaving, coming back. And so I was really surprised, but I realized, I was like, okay, it's 4:15. I've got to pick up Kimberly, my friend, at 5. I'm going to be late. That was my only thought. I was like, and I started swimming back. But I realized as I was getting out, I'm like, I'm warm. And usually if I'm spending that long in the water, I would be cold. My hands would be pruned. I'd have all the signs of being, 82-degree water for 2 hours. None of that. So it was really strange. So I had to climb out to get out, and then I went out. But it was like seamless. Like there was no, like from the time it happened till the time I got out of the water, got back to the Jeep, went to pick up Kimberly. It didn't hit me until probably a week later when I got back to Boulder. What was that? It was seamless. It was almost like I wasn't allowed to remember for whatever reason. So. But that changed my life, and I started having emotional, physical, not physical, I'm sorry, but just emotional memories, like just the feeling of wanting to go home was so intense that I didn't know what to do with it. And I didn't know who to tell. It's like, you are home. You're home in Boulder. Like there's nowhere else to go. Where are you going to go? You know? So I just put it away. But I did go seeking answers after that. I wanted to know what the hell happened to me. It's just that knowing that I'm not from here. There is life on other planets. There was a sense of just connectedness to everything at that point. But I didn't feel it here. So that sense of being alone was so intense that, yeah, I wish I had known about Dolores Cannon and you had come on the scene back then. It would have been a lot nicer to have those explanations. But I had to wait another, till 2017 before I woke up again and was ready to face what had happened. And I'm looking at maybe doing a QHHT session by the end of this year to really find out what happened to that missing time. I'm ready. I'm just like, let's do it. So I don't know if that helped, but that's basically what happened in a nutshell. I'm really, not going into great details, just the story, but yeah.
Yeah. What's interesting is that you said the emotion, you had an emotional memory, but the mind, you had a missing time in the mind. You have blank memories, but the emotional was there. And Tony Rodriguez explains it well because he does courses to get your memory back. He works with people who have been in secret space programs, and he says that usually the emotional is the thread. By the emotional, you can find out and reconnect the memory. And it's interesting that you say that you had an emotional memory of your missing time. Yes, there's certainly something to look forward to research there. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for giving us this testimony, Kristen and Dani. Dani, what do you think about the experience Kristen just
Yeah,
told? And,
it's fascinating, Kristen. It's so fascinating. There's a lot of theories around what and how we access a portal. And there's a thinking that our DNA can actually be the gate opener, be the code. So you could have very well literally walked into an aspect and of a former life and just been teleported there, literally. The other thing to look at here, there's a lady called Marcella Velasquez. She's lovely. She's on my channel. There's a broadcast on my channel. And Marcella is Andromedan. And she talks about being in the Andromedan galaxy and moving through a blue sun. And on the other side of the blue sun, which was a portal, because the sun and the stars, the sun is a portal. And so when you're talking, it reminded me of Marcella and the way she talks about, and I wondered if there was an Andromedan connection for you, because we have codes, DNAs, and frequencies in our bodies and our field that definitely does unlock doorways, gateways, portals. So that's what came to mind at first, and that you were alone and missing time. And so you're given all the physical signatures as well to make sure that you don't forget something actually happened, inviting you to look at that soul and spiritual past life, current life, present life, future life part of yourself.
Yeah, it's interesting. Kristen speaks about a blue sun, and the lady, Dani, Marcella, speaks about a blue sun as well. So that's interesting.
Yeah, that's Andromeda.
So Dani, you had experience with portals in Hawaii and insights as well. So could you share, please?
Yeah, well, a couple of things that I do want to share on Kauai. I also call Kauai Lemuria. I believe it to be a very strong aspect still of the great land of Lemuria. I was on the island almost 20 years ago, and I saw with my own eyes a rainbow and I was looking at the rainbow, and it was so spectacular. It was extra thick, and I could really see it clearly, because the naked eye can't always see the infrared, the gamma rays, the quarks. It has to be a perfect environment for us to physically see what some things that are hidden. Anyway, this rainbow appears, and I'm looking at it, and then it's a normal arc that we all see as children, and then it started to move up, and I'm looking at it going, oh my God. It's coming out of the ground. And then I realized it is a complete circle. And then I was like, well, of course it is. The light continues down into the ground. That's 5D, just because we can't see it. And it was just so mind-blowing. Had I not seen it, I wouldn't now have the understanding I believe I do. So this great big gigantic rainbow, now complete Stargate portal circle, it gently turned on its side, and it started moving sunwise. And as it's moving, I see people coming through it. They're coming through it and almost just stepping onto the earth. And I'm looking at this like it was in another time that I was viewing. I'd gone from seeing the present moment rainbow to it becoming something else. And I'm standing on a beach watching this. And it turned out that this was one of the ways that some of the original humans got onto the planet. Yeah, so that was the major insight I had for that particular island and the rainbow and that being a portal.
There is definitely something happened with this part of the world, because I know there are portals a little bit everywhere on the planet, but Hawaii, it's really something, there's something very rich there. And there are some legends with the people of Hawaii who say that their ancestors came from the stars. So that's interesting. Chris, what do you think about all this?
Gosh, there's so much to unpack there.
Go on, unleash.
Well, firstly, I am not surprised at all to hear that anybody has, seen or entered any type of portal on any of the Hawaiian Islands. And as Danny said, especially Kauai, historically, some of the original Polynesian inhabitants of Kauai, it's known that the east side of Kauai is a portal where souls come into the earth. And it's the west side of Kauai is the portal where souls exit the earth. So for Danny to see that actually aligns with old tradition and old understanding of the Hawaiian people themselves. And she's correct on the location, because we spoke, a while back about where she saw this rainbow. And where she saw this rainbow, there's actually a hill, just a hill in the middle of like a flat area. Then there's a hill. And on top of the hill, there's a water tower. And near that water tower, over that hill, people to this day see UFOs coming in and out. It's just very common. The whole neighborhood are very, very familiar with seeing lights coming in and out of nowhere that they can detect. They just suddenly appear. They'll fly around the neighborhood and they'll go back in. It can be orange lights, white lights. Some of them have shapes, and that's coincidentally about 1.5 miles from my house. So it's very common.
Yeah, so the UFO could come through portals if they appear out of nowhere. They could as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very common here, and because also what people don't really understand is that some of the original inhabitants of this area, because Lemuria, that continent kind of collapsed around 50,000-ish years ago. But around that time, there was the Palladians that had come, and there's a base under Kauai, and they still use it. And they work with the United States government, and the Space Force and NASA, they all have bases in that same space.
Yeah, there's a Space Force base not far from where you live, Chris. Is that correct?
That is correct. There are two. There's one about 100 miles on the island of Oahu, and there's another one here on the island of Kauai.
Yeah, that's not a coincidence, isn't it?
No, not at all.
No, not at all. The beach where the souls on the island leave is called Polahale. And I've been there several times, and I go, it's a beautiful place to go. It's a hell of a road to get there. It really puts you off. It's a 4-mile road with the biggest potholes you've never seen, and it takes forever. Do not go along that road with a broken rib. Tried that. Ouch. Okay, don't recommend it. But the last time I was there at Christmas, I was sitting down on the beach with my friend Diane, and I'm blessed being clairvoyant and being able to see through dimensions. I used to wonder, why do people not see that? Well, not everybody's clairvoyant, or attuned to it. I'm attuned to it. So the things I see when I'm sitting out there on Polahale are incredible. One of them being, there's a certain section of the beach at the very, very, very end where you can go no further. And I sat there. First of all, I look up and something literally opened in the sky, and a black round circular thing looked down. It knew I'd see it, and it perfectly planned to show me. And I'm like, bloody hell. And Diane's like, what? And I'm like, oh my God, the sky just opened right there. And I just saw a black, like an observatory, an observational, whatever it was, let me know. The first time I went there, I saw a massive, gigantic, pearlescent, geometric patterns, but all one color, like pinky purple, out just off the shore. A huge ship just sitting there. And then back in the bushes where the mountains are, there was a gigantic mirror, and it was reflecting. And I'm like, wow. And it was all cloaked technology. So there's a lot going on there, not military, otherworldly. Yeah. The military can't get all the credit for this. But the last time I was there, sitting on the beach, saw the black, viewer, but also the color. And I came back and was saying to Chris, oh my God, it was all like pinks and greens. It was almost like you knew you were inside another dimension. You could feel it. There was nothing natural that we would see with the naked eye walking up the other parts of the beach. At that part of the beach, it is like you're sitting inside of a cartoon almost, but a little bit more subtle. It's just mind-blowing.
Yeah, Dani, you told me once you met beings on the beach that were half in the water. Was it also in Hawaii?
Yes, Lemuria. Yes, it was. Yeah. And they were standing on the edge, so it was hard to see if they were going in or they'd come out, but they weren't wet. They were kind of wearing they were very, very tall. They were bright white blonde hair. They had these huge, beautiful eyes, blue eyes. And one of the strangest things was their ears, they kind of sat back. They sat back like this. They were so beautiful. And their mouths, they had really full lips. Like blubber lips, we'd call them, beautiful, perfectly pouty lips. And I was on a spiritual retreat. And anyways, long story short, I'm walking down the beach and I'm seeing these beings, and they're crossing their wrists like this. And they're taking my hand and saying, aloha mahalo. Then the next person did this, grabbed my hands, aloha mahalo. And aloha mahalo, hello and thank you, hello, thank you, in Hawaiian. I get to the very end, and there is a little tiny Yoda type, beautiful. He was so, oh my God, he was a king, or he was the highest being of the group that were there. And he was tiny and beautiful. And he said, thank you for coming home. Thank you. And it was my first time in Hawaii. So this was 2001 or 2. I forget. I think it was 2002 early. Anyway, it was so beautiful. And I knew I was home. I knew I'd come home. I knew I had to come home to Kauai, to Lemuria. And then I told the woman who was the hierarchical spiritual leader, the guru, and she told me, oh, you saw the fish people. I said, no, that doesn't feel right. The fish people, no. And she said, oh, the Lemurians. And I had never even heard of Lemuria, but I certainly got dunked in. And that's what can happen to you, Kristen. You got dunked into an experience which literally forces you to open your soul, open your cellular memories, and go on that journey that we're all here to journey.
Yeah. Yes. What do you think, Kristen?
That's a lot to unpack. I haven't had that many experiences, but wow. I mean, you're saying that is it Kauai or the Hawaiian Islands that were part of Lemuria? that you believe that was part of Lemuria. Because like New Zealand too, as I recall, there was a connection between New Zealand and Maui, or the Hawaiian Islands, right? Do you have any say on that?
People make the mistake only because we've been programmed to believe what we're told about Atlantis and Lemuria, but they don't understand or allow themselves to recognize that these times were hundreds of thousands of miles. It wasn't a tiny island. It's called off Santorini in Greece for Atlantis. No, it was continents. So yeah, the Hawaiian Islands, right, Chris, are very, very connected to Lemuria.
Yes, all of the islands. Okay. Some of them that have, since kind of gone under, the surface of the ocean as well. But.
So that's interesting. Something I'd like to understand. These portals, they don't link to a particular place, but they link you with a place where you resonate with, where you want to go. They are not set, destination set, these portals. It takes you where your soul belongs to, isn't it?
Mm.
Seems
because
like
it's a quantum thing, and that quantum entanglement entangles with your thought pattern, because thought is manifestation and actualization and creation and love, and your thought is what kind of drives those moments. And it just so happens that the portals, the vortices on Earth that we're as humans are familiar with are on land because we can access them, but really they're not based on the location, as you say, Elena. What they're based on is the energetic grid of the Earth itself. So there's a web, like ley lines, there's this like energetic lines surrounding the Earth, just like a complete web, and so there are a lot of them over the ocean, but the vast majority of people don't have access. So there's no experiences there. We're only experiencing the vortices and the portals that we can actually physically access.
Yes, the intention, the destination, you set it yourself. And Kristen, it was your home where you belong to. Well, actually, you were surprised, but you found yourself with these two experience with portals, and it took you where you resonate with, where your soul comes from. That's interesting. And Dani was saying there are portals in Kauai where the souls come and the souls go. It's again journey of the soul. It's interesting.
Kristen, your experiences are magnificent. I mean, you're sitting there, you just said, I haven't had many experiences. Girl, what you experienced was huge. It was massive. Yeah. Don't diminish it, because what you do by sharing your story, you open the possibility in the mind of everyone that will see this. And that's part of the journey. You're like a gatekeeper or a key holder. You open something up. It was opened up for you. And because you experienced it, it was real. And there's not a single soul that can ever tell you it wasn't. I believe that was part of your mission to experience that.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised at all that it's based on emotion, like that, because in my experiences, bringing all of my, SSP and my Space Force and all of my erased memories forward is first emotion. Because emotion is what we attach to on more of a DNA level, and so that's what we feel, and we connect to that first more often than not, and then the actual visual of those memories come in. So first we have the emotion. So I wasn't surprised at all to hear that you had an emotional reaction the way you did.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. I want to talk about the water though. What is it about people who've had these experiences seem to be, they're like near an ocean, they're near a lake, they're near some kind of body of water and maybe Elena, you can probably answer that question too.
I'm thinking about Jean-Charles Moyen, who has the ability of teleporting, and he always teleports where there is water. On a beach, near a river, in Antarctica where there's the ice. There's no mystery for that when you understand it. Water is the structure of water is, I would say, vorticial. It has many micro vortices in its arrangement, molecular arrangement. So water is a medium to be used as interdimensional leaps. And I've been once through a Stargate, and it's very unsettling. That's the word is too weak. You need to drink water. I was given water, and before and after, and they say it helps the body to pass through to perform the quantum leap without being sick. The water really helps. And when you see these Stargates, they are bubbles. They are not flat like in the movie Stargate. It's round, it's spherical, and it's a moving liquid. And one of the components of this fluid, it's water. So water is always necessary. And Hawaii, I mean, there's water everywhere, around, on it. Yeah. So
Hawaii
Well,
also.
anything crystalline. I'm sorry, Danny, go ahead.
That's fine. No, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that anything crystalline, like quartz, granite, any sort of crystalline structured material will assist in teleportation, will assist in energy transfer. And water is considered a crystal because it is a crystalline structure. It's all even laid out. All the molecules are perfected as far as how they interact. So water is technically a crystal.
I guess the reason I asked that, oh, sorry. Yeah.
That's right. No, say water is a conductor also. We are mostly water, and water also has the ability to record, and it has memory of everything that's ever happened within it. So when you have that perfect environment, you know, in physics, they talk about creating the perfect environment for something to happen. You know, this is one of the reasons why, again, people have those experiences around water, you know.
That's,
and also, sorry, and one more thing. Hawaii, the islands in Hawaii are the furthest landmass away from anywhere else in the world. You've got Australia a gazillion miles that way. You've got Japan that way. And so it's another reason why it's so concentrated there.
Yeah. Well, what you talked about, Chris, with the magnetic ley lines being that we're the portals, right? And so the magnetic ley lines, I mean, Dan Winter talked about this too, that we're standing on two magnetic points, and you go, you know, it's like phase conjugation, like what he said, and you can literally be directionally teleported out, not teleported, but your energy, your plasma can be squirt out into a direction. So if your soul is like, hey, let's go to the Pleiades, you know, that's maybe what happened. But my question is, does it always, I mean, they open, they close, or is it based on, like, I was really close to the equinox. I mean, when this happened, I was probably 2 weeks out from the equinox. So if we talk about times of the year, placements, so it's like almost like a rendezvous between soul and place, you know, or the soul of a place, where everything has to kind of coalesce at the right time. Or could you just go back there? Because 10 months later, I went back to the same spot on that lava field, and nothing happened. So I want to be really clear, like if you go looking for these things, it might not happen. It's almost like you're called to be there. And when it opens, and when it doesn't, it doesn't. And I think, like Danny, you had your experience, you were supposed to see that, right? And so I don't know. That's just my thought about it. But.
What is very interesting is that at the equinoxes and the solstices, there's something that shift in the magnetic field of the earth, and it is said in the traditions, the ancient traditions, that at the equinoxes and the solstices, the veil between the realms is thinner. So you can communicate with the spirit world or the fairies or the elementals at these points, because the veil is the thinnest and it even has holes in it. So that's maybe why these portals are working better at these moments. That's what I would comment on it. Other Chris and what do you think? What do you think, Chris?
Oh, well, I I agree with you entirely, because what we don't understand enough of yet is the alignment of the planets and the magnetic pull of planets and how they affect one another, then how the magnetic field, electrical field of the Earth is, and those are all vibration. And we have a vibration. We are a vibration. In my work in the SSP, we could find somebody's vibrational state and remove their consciousness based on that. Well, that same thing can happen naturally. If we're in a compatible vibrational state with, say, another timeline of ourselves, that's what deja vu is a connection vibrationally between you and another you in another timeline or in another dimension, having that same experience at the same moment. So you have this moment of deja vu. So you're really creating a vortex or wormhole between yourself and yourself. And this is one of the great mysteries of consciousness. And these moments that we have accidentally are spurred by the electromagnetic field of the Earth, the pull of all the other planets. There's a number of things, but it's all energy, and it's all the transfer of energy. And then when we're around a lot of water, a lot of crystal, a lot of whatever we might be around, all of those things help to condense and focus energy. And then when that energy is condensed, and especially if we're immersed in water, we're within that crystalline structure, and that energy kind of flows more directly through us. And so it's all us, it's all energy, it's all consciousness. We just take the environment around us and use that.
It's like we are the keys and we activate these doors. We open the doors, these portals.
Yeah, unless it's can I share something? I was hanging out with Tony Rodriguez earlier. Yeah, he and I, we're all good friends, all of us, and we were hanging out, and we haven't seen each other for a couple of weeks. And he was sharing he's been doing so many conferences lately, and he's just finished his new book, and he's so pumped, and his evidence in Peru panned out, and so he's working hard on that. But we were talking about JP. And when JP and his team in the Army, Space Force Army, went on a space arc, and there were other soldiers there from other parts of the planet. And I forget which group it was. I'm not sure if it was the Mexicans that went into a rounded liquid bubble inside of the ark. But they went into it and they got in trouble and they had to be pulled out. So I wondered if, because that maybe wasn't a planned event, that there was nobody on the other side or nobody watching that for the safety aspects of it, right? So I say that and leave that on the table for a second, because Tony shared in his book, Ceres Colony Cavalier, that he went to the moon on one of the escapades from Ceres Colony. He went to the moon. And I've written it down because when he was telling me, I'm like, oh my God, can I share that today? Because I'm meeting with Kristen, Elena, and Chris to discuss portals. And so what happened was that the one on the moon, he said, see my aurora borealis behind me, the northern lights. He said, it's similar to the brightest green color, but almost with a tinge of blue. He's like, I'm a guy, Danny. It's green or it's blue. But somebody else said it was turquoise. I'm like, turquoise, darling, turquoise. But anyway, it's a very kind of light color. So he gets lined up with a harness on with other guys, other soldiers, and there are men sitting in a circular desk who are moving signs and symbols around and programming. And then there's a wall, and then the light drops behind the wall, and there is a portal, a round circular portal with this kind of coloring light in it, moving, liquid moving. And he said that the portal was sitting on a staged area on top at what looked like a 10-foot moldavite crystal, one on the bottom, one on the top. And it obviously was creating some kind of a stable environment. And he said they were advised, when you start walking, you walk straight through it. Do not change the pace of your footing. Keep going at the same pace through the portal. And he said it was like bang, and he was right through on the other side. Now, would that be the difference between a portal and a stargate? Or is there really any difference? Because it seems to be that was planned, the conditions were right, it was manipulated into being what it was. The men were sent to repair an anti-gravity tower in Chicago. and then popped back. They were told to turn around, face the moon, and they were back in seconds. So that's an incredible story from Tony Rodriguez. True life happening, an event in his world.
Yeah, I remember reading this in his excellent book, Ceres Colony Cavalier, and I was very impressed how he describes the spherical portals and or Stargate. A Stargate is a portal that can take you to really to any destination in the universe. Because JP also later will describe these round bubbles, and I've seen one myself. Behind Jupiter, in the orbit of Jupiter, it's a bubble in space, and there's this waving, I would say turquoise liquid, like in the movie Stargate. It's the same kind of things, which is Disclosure movie. I believe so. So all of this match is interesting. I was wondering, Kristen, did you see this kind of wavy at any moment when you were projected through this other place where you belong, your soul belong? Did you see at any moment this type of waving, strange liquid?
No. I think you had asked me that question in the first interview about pins and needles and all of that, and I was very clear there was no stepping through something and feeling like my molecules had shifted to a different density and brought out. It just literally was like I was out. I left. I don't even remember. I mean, usually when you're projecting your consciousness, you can be here and be over here at the same time and still have recollection of where you left. It's like there was nothing. I was there and then I was there. And so how that happened, again, it could have, like you said, a projection of consciousness, or so how these things work is a mystery to me.
And you were,
I think,
sorry to cut you. That's questions.
Yeah. It sounds like what you experienced with Stargates and what Dan Winter talked about, that was much more physical. You literally stepped through something with your full, yeah. Is that true? Yeah.
Yeah. It was physical, not pleasant. It was physical. Yes. Because you, Kristen, when you find yourself there, you don't have a physical body. It's just your awareness, your consciousness that is there, isn't it?
But how is it that it felt physical? This is what I don't understand. So
felt physical.
It's like having all of your senses aware around you. I could see, I could smell, I could, not taste, but I had the sense of the ground under me. Everything, yeah, it was, I don't know, like that's the sense I got. And then coming back was extremely physical. So I don't know how.
The way you describe it looks physical.
It's by location, I guess. I mean, I don't understand this stuff. You guys are the experts. I'm not a portal expert. I just have this experience. And the rest of it is like, I have a lot of questions. I don't have a lot of answers. That's really been my quest to find answers to what happened. And hopefully if other people have had these experiences, gosh, we can really validate this phenomenon, because I'm sure it happens and people don't talk about it. It took me 14 years to open up and finally share what happened.
Kristen, you said that when you walked backwards into the water with your fins, a wave went over you. And then you said when you got in the water, it kind of, you did this with your hands. So you did experience a shift in the water as you were going into it. So I think maybe we need to explore that a little bit more.
Maybe. Yeah, that could have been. And we also talked about maybe a time dilation or some kind of, I mean, again, what happens during those times? When is there a physical shift of matter, a density shift, like when you go through something like that? And maybe I was only in the water for 5 minutes, right? But when I woke up, it was 2 hours later. Does this make sense? So this is what doesn't make sense to me. Physically, I did not feel like I was in the water for 2 hours. So where did I go?
Mm,
You know?
yeah.
And I don't have anybody to say, oh, we were watching you for, you were way out there or whatever. There was nobody to let me know that I was on the water. And that sucks because I would have liked to have known what happened when I woke up. Like, how long had you been out there?
But there's a
So,
fact that there's a
my watch told me that I had been out there for 2 hours, but yeah, anyway.
the fact there's a fact and physical like an evidence that you were not in the water during 2 hours. You were somewhere else, because you described that your body wasn't cold. It didn't seem like you spent 2 hours in the water, so you were out of the water for 2 hours somewhere else, or either you experience a time dilation and just a shift in time. So
And that's a HT session, I hope, could give me some insight into. I don't know. Danny, if you have any recommendations, let me know.
Well, what was the beach called? Where is it? What island? Because people are going to be dying to know so they can go experience.
Yeah, Ahihi Bay on Maui. So it's just I'm gonna mess up the directions, but it's Makena Beach is there. It's like, there's a bunch of golf courses there, and then as you keep going, you end up in the real deserty part of that island. And there's it's called Ahikino Preserve. That's the name of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's brilliant. I remember years ago, again, still staying with portals, I was on the River Thames, which is the river that goes through London, and on my boat, and somebody else was with me, and I'm looking up, and there's so many UFOs and lights in that area, just unbelievable. So guaranteed, go out there with your coffee or a glass of wine. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt, here they come. And this one particular night, they were so wild. There was one orange. First of all, I thought it was Chinese lanterns, right? Because it was a very popular time for the lanterns. And first of all, one orange light comes through, kind of like this. And then it disappeared. It was like there was a slit in the sky that you couldn't really see. And as this orange light came around, it kind of almost tilted and went into this other dimension, disappeared. Then another one came. And then another and another. And I'm with this guy and I'm like, oh my God. He's like, oh my God. He went, Chinese lanterns. I'm like, no, look, they're on the exact same trajectory. They're going into the exact same seam. But you could almost make out a seam, like an opening. And then we're watching, and I counted like 7 or 8 of the little ones. And then I said, you wait, I could feel it. Here comes the mothership. And this gigantic orange, bright orange globe mothership, it was like 10 times the size of the little ones that we saw, came through. And I said, you wait, it's going to go right, it's going to pop through there. And it did, and it disappeared. And then but way back then, this is like 2009, I remember thinking, well, that, portal, other dimension, but portal, what is the difference? Stargate, dimension, portal. You know what I mean? They knew it was there. They were coming in from somewhere and going through, and it was designed. It was known. They were on a course, a trajectory, and they were popping in through there.
Yeah, there are some portals, they are not visible unless they activate. Thank you. Most of them, actually. Chris, you want to say something?
No, I was just thinking, from my recollection, from being off planet with, Danny was mentioning the difference between a Stargate and a portal, was that I think this is a very simplistic way of explaining it, but the portals tend to be natural. Vortices tend to be natural, but then like Stargates are technology that either creates and maintains a portal or uses an existing portal, technology enhances it. And like Elena was saying that, like a Stargate will take you to another solar system or to another galaxy or even another dimension, which any of the natural ones can too, but they're not mapped the way Stargates are. And that's part of what technology is traded with Earth governments is basically maps of portals, so they know how to enter trajectory wise. They know when to exit and what trajectory. And so that's all information, that with stargates that have been mapped and created, and there's some form of technology that tends to help you manipulate and use it.
Yeah, they have a frequency key, as they call it, where they embed as frequencies. And there is holographic geometry, but the geometry is frequency as well. It's difficult to explain what I've been explained. So it's the destination that is embedded in this encoded frequency signal. And they broadcast this, they shoot at the Stargate, they broadcast the signal, and the Stargate is going to connect to that point, and they have to go straight away. That's how they do with technology. And I agree with you. Portals are just natural occurrences. Kristen has experienced. And the intention, I believe that the intention, the resonance that we have with a certain place, where we have a quantum link anyway. Our souls are entangled to this place naturally. This is where we come from, our planetary matrix, I suppose. Well, that works straight away because we already have the link. I think that's what Kristen experienced. I don't know what you guys think.
Well, I certainly agree. I mean, like I said earlier, it's all about our vibrational state and becoming compatible. It's like you tune yourself to such a level. And if it's just haphazard or it's accidental, you might accidentally run into a portal that's your same vibrational state at that time, and then you'll have this experience. But it could also be that you as the individual are creating that portal, because of your vibrational state. But it's all about our vibration and our energy level. We use like I said earlier, we use the environment to enhance that. Whether it's magnetism or it's using crystals or quartz in some form or fashion to focus that. That it's still us, though. We are still creating it.
Yes, and we have all these abilities to activate. It's in our pineal gland. We have a vortex there. We have a door, and I was shown how to do that, how to project my consciousness to places. I manifest the place, I create the resonance, and I project myself there. But you need first to activate the door, to open the door, the vortex. We all have this vortex in the pineal gland. The first time I was shown that by my contact Una, who she put her finger through my skull in a higher frequency, didn't hurt. Sure, everybody. And she touched my pineal gland, and there was a vortex, a green vortex, actually turquoise, that was the same colors, and it whirled, and I was just propelled in it, and to another place where at the time it was where the 9 are, but I experienced this myself. I managed a few times to activate it myself, really concentrate, and put all my will and my intention and my thoughts in here in the middle of my skull, and squeeze it, and poof, sometimes it happened. But you really to concentrate, bringing all your attention and all your being, everything you are in that singularity, in this node that is going to propel you, this phase conjugation point. Yeah, so we can all do that, but it's not easy, but we have all this ability, I believe.
Definitely. Kristen, one thing I wanted to share with you quickly, because I know you're on such a quest, as so many other people are. I had an experience years ago where I left my body, as we're an astral traveling situation, and suddenly I found myself out my body, but up above the planet and in space. And I was so shocked that it was cold. I could feel wind. Now, I worked in the space industry for years. This is a later date, but before then, I didn't know what I know now. And I didn't know that there's supposed to be no atmosphere. There's supposed to be no wind. And I wondered for a long time, why was I able to feel that physically? When I knew I was astral traveling, I was out my body, but I had every physical feeling. And it was so that my mind would remember, record. It was a signature memory for me to recognize that that was a real experience. Even though I was not fully physical, I was physical. They call it the light body, doesn't really matter. So, you know, we try and think too hard, too linear. We try and logicize everything. Sometimes we don't. We just throw it all away. Only experience, it helps open up more of the cellular memory, because everything that has happened is recorded, whether you took the whole body with you or not. You know what I mean?
That's very, very similar.
Sorry.
Go on, Kristen. I was saying that what Dani just said is so similar to what you lived through, Kristen. Go ahead.
You talked about it not being astral because of the silver cord experience, right? Like you can't, once that's cut, in other words, I think you had an experience, Elena, where you were only able to go so far out of the solar system, and then you had to be brought back because it was going to, it was too far. And I often wonder, like, is that true? Or could it be that you could cut the cord? I mean, what happens during near-death experiences, right? So people can see their bodies. They might go out somewhere else and go to the light. They might go see other experiences and then be told they have to come back. So was the cord cut? Or did they just go into, so, because the feeling coming back felt very, I mean, just like being struck by lightning, that's the only way. It was very violent. It was not fun coming back. And so I don't know what that was, but if it was my own soul just like smacking back into my body, slamming into my body, but it didn't feel like a, I mean, I've had conscious experience, or what do you call it, projection of consciousness or remote view, that kind of stuff. And it seems real here, right? Like you're having pictures. It's like a moving, you know, and you're there, and then poof, and then it's like a vision, and then you're back in the room. It's like that versus what I did, which felt very physical, and then coming back into my body, which was also very physical. So I don't know. I just have a lot of questions about that. Of what do you think might be going on with the cord? You know, the soul. Could it be a near-death experience? You come back, or maybe there was help. I don't know. Maybe there was some help there to allow for that experience to happen. You know, because I wasn't. You know, we talk about vibration and all that. I was just out gonna go snorkeling that day. You know, I didn't have like a big, like, oh, I'm gonna and sit and meditate for 3 hours and then have this experience. I wasn't trying to have the experience. It just happened, right? So what the heck? You know, that's what I mean. Is like sometimes it just does, and then other times you could try for 3 years to try to have an experience like that and never have one. And I know because I've tried to do that again. Like, oh, I'll just go sit by these ley lines in Sedona and see if I have an experience, you know, and it doesn't happen. You know what I mean? So maybe it's I have a lot of questions. Anyway, I'm just rambling, but what do you guys think about that? What about near-death experiences, silver cords, and is that even real?
Well, from what literally remember, you know, because I remember being incarnate. I remember just prior to that. I remember the process, you know, and in that process, you know, and I don't love using the term matrix, but matrices are photons. We are photonic. All material is photons. So it really is appropriate. And consciousness, moving consciousness is quite easily done, especially in the photonic state. And then the photonic state of a lower vibration, where we are in like third, fourth density right now, is pretty easy to manipulate for higher densities and for higher technology. You know, so for us to be able to jump in and out, because like Kristen, when you were explaining your experience, it sounded very much like when I would be in a hibernative state, when I would be in stasis, and they would project my consciousness and I could feel everything around me. So I would be going to meetings and negotiations with other races, but I wasn't there. They saw me as being there. I saw myself as being almost solid, but not quite. I could kind of see through myself a little bit. That was my perspective. But it was as if I was in that environment. I could touch and feel things, so it's a photonic state that is actually technologically driven. And quite often when our higher self, which is our self in the future, wants to begin the process of us becoming awakened and enlightened in this experience, the higher self will take over in a moment in time and pull you into something different. And you could very likely have been physically pulled away, but you weren't allowed to remember that aspect, because I still leave most often at night. And I'll wake up and I know it's as if I was struck by lightning. My whole consciousness wakes up suddenly, so I know the feeling, and it's when I'm returned physically to my physical form, when my consciousness has been removed.
Yeah, that's a really good explanation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning the meetings, Chris, because when I go to some meetings, sometimes I go physically to a place, and from this place I am projected as a hologram. So when it's a hologram, I don't feel really much the environment, but it occurred very rarely that they made me bilocate. And I had this experience recently. I went to a meeting and it wasn't safe. I haven't disclosed it yet. It wasn't safe. Anything could happen. So I was on a ship with other people, and they asked me to put on gloves and touch pads. And so I would be bilocated, like split in two, to another place with everyone. But there would be my envelope, my body envelope stayed on board the ship, and my hands just stuck on the pads. And if at any moment something would happen, I would decide I could have the possibility to send myself back to my body and just be back. And they said to me, that's bilocation. But when I was there, I could feel everything. I sat in a seat carved out of stone. It was cold. It was damp. I could feel the water and breathe the air. It had a smell, and it was like split in two. And it reminds me your experience, Kristen. So technology, it's interesting. It's like
yeah, because when you have when technology has mapped the human body, it has its vibrational frequency, and it knows all, mathematically it can map your body. So since we're still photonic and we're in a matrix that's been created, basically, they can duplicate you. It's not hard. I mean, not when they have the technology, and so that I really appreciate you saying that, Elena, because it's causing me to rethink. I'm like, okay, now I know sometimes I didn't feel the environment, sometimes I did. And so I'm like, I need to rethink some of that to see if maybe sometimes it was biolocation and sometimes fully holographic.
Yeah, when you don't feel the environment, but you're really there, but you don't feel anything, you are a holographic projection of yourself. So you're not, doubled, or it's just a holographic projection, but your consciousness, that's technology. Your consciousness sticks to the hologram, the projection. So it's very interesting. But then, yes, bilocation, it's, I suppose, do you think, Kristen, that matches what you've been through, bilocation?
I can't say for 100% sure, but that makes a lot of sense. Chris, you were in the secret space program, and you said you had experiences with being, and then yourself, Elena. Bilocating is something that, the mystics can bilocate too. That's the other thing. Some of these great mystics, Padre Pio was known to bilocate. So are some of these other Indian saints. And I wonder, so you're saying that it's the technology of extraterrestrials, of secret space program, or we are the technology and can do this ourselves. Literally take our photons and put a photonic hologram or whatever in another space line or something.
Yeah, like that. The interesting thing about that, Kristen, is that currently in our understanding here on Earth, you know, we have science and we have spirituality. But when you move beyond what we understand now, you understand that science and technology is the same thing.
Yeah.
And so it's two sides of the same coin. So you can easily do any of these things, you know, and so when it's natural, I mean, when a person is able to align their energy and create and connect themselves to source, then you can do things without technology. But until then, we use technology to get us some of the same results.
I wanted to say something about Las Cruces, New Mexico, because I was there in 2020 during the pandemic, and I just did a hike up in the mountains there, and one of the things that hit me, and it was the I'm sorry, they're called, I call them the Oregon Mountains, but they're the Oregon Mountains there. They look like organs. They're these huge cliffs that just jut out of the earth, and you're just surrounded by the Chihuahuan Desert, and it had nothing to do with Maui. It didn't have even look like anything in Maui, but I had the sense that where I was standing was directly connected to Maui and where I was over there. I could smell the ocean. I'm nowhere near the ocean, but I could smell the ocean. And I was just like getting these bleed through, like I was there and I was here simultaneously but I wasn't, you know, but I could sense that line of wherever I was. So I looked at a map and I'm going, that's pretty damn close. If you're talking about a line that goes across like this on a continent, all the way over to an island, it's pretty close. So I think there is something to that, the magnetic ley lines. But if you've had an experience like that, you are now quantumly linked to that place. It feels like you have resonance there. So anywhere you go along those lines, you're going to feel it there too, and maybe be able to communicate back to Maui, you know, and vice versa. So I thought that was fascinating. But I called my friend, and she just, the first thing she said, she texted me. I said, I'm going to Las Cruces, and I think she texted me, and it was weird. She said, portal. No reason. It was just a strange coincidence. I was like, portal? Like, you mean Portale, New Mexico? And I was like, she's like, no, portal. You're there to find a portal. And I was like, what? She didn't know anything about my story, by the way. So someone who's very psychic, but there is something to that. I just wanted to share that, but yeah.
Seems like you have the ability, Kristen, to activate portals when you are near one, I would say.
Yeah. I don't think I was X marked the spot on that one, but I was pretty darn close because I could feel it.
You mentioned the silver cord. I just want to address that because you asked the question. My belief, the silver cord, once that's cut, that's the soul leaving the physical body and returning to source. That's my belief, my understanding. And I've not got anything to the contrary of that. And if there is something wonderful, bring it. But that is my belief. Yeah.
So totally different than the bilocation. That makes more sense, actually, Elena, now that you say that.
Yeah. I could feel I've experienced different techniques. They made me experience different techniques, and the astral travel, that's what I like the least, because if as I go far, the farthest I go from my physical body, I start to feel nauseous, bit dizzy, and it's not enjoyable. And there's always this stress that bad entities could attack my silver cord, and cut it. Because Torhan told me once, you broke it, you separate from your earth body, you cannot go back. Or maybe people who do ND near-death experiments are not really cut. I don't know how this works. But I didn't like it. And you can't really feel too much physically. You're like a light being. You don't really have a physical body. It's like the light being a version of yourself. I noticed. So it's not the funniest thing, because when you bilocate, it's a quantum entanglement. So you don't have any link between the both. And so you're not endangered. But astral travel, you actually have a link. And that's not safe, I would say. Dani, you are quite, you have had quite experiences with paranormal, and you're actually a paranormal expert.
Well, I don't know what I define the word expert. Yeah, I have had a huge amount since birth of paranormal. Definitely. You know, one thing I was thinking about with us and the portal discussion is there's many hidden portals inside the Earth, you know, the Earth's magnetic fields. And the other thing is a thinking that some of the greatest portaling or portals are between the sun's magnetic field and the Earth, the edge of the Earth's atmosphere. And there's a thinking that motorway, that freeway there, is another place where many are created. Now, I'm not a physicist, you know, a science-minded in that regard. I wonder what the reality is on that, because it would have to agitate. It's a powerfully sourced area between two bodies, the sun and the Earth's atmosphere, that gaseous layer, and agitating, pulsing, and creating, you know, particles, major force. I mean, you know, the CERN particle accelerator, I don't know that science to be able to speak on that good enough either, but they agitate so many atoms and they create things to collide. And I don't know, I wonder if there's something we could explore for another time there. This is where we need Dan Winter on a round table.
He's here. Nobody else can speak. He is so prolific.
He is. Chris Esson, you know, Chris Esson, the French physicist. He's brilliant too. Yeah, we should get them both on. And go, boy, men, please help us.
Dani, I'm impressed by what you say about the location of stargates and portals in that particular zone at the edge of the magnetosphere of the Earth, when the sun magnetism just comes and hits. And that's the very layer where all the particles are extremely excited and fight each other and just collide. Well, the most powerful stargate in this star system, and which actually is now the only one activated by safety, is the one that is behind Jupiter. So people don't really understand behind Jupiter. So, I mean, when Jupiter moves, it's there. No, it follows Jupiter. The exact location of this stargate, where everyone goes in and out in the star system, it's at the edge of the magnetosphere of Jupiter. At a certain location in this zone, there's a special point. It's linked with the balance of the gravity of the planet and the magnetosphere. It's there. So it's attached to the planet, but it's exactly how you said, Dani. It's that zone.
Yeah, interesting and exciting. Yeah. It's amazing what discussions like this, you know, can really ignite inside a person, what memories, what cellular memories stored, remembering to activate pineal gland. It's just such rich and important, you know, and not one of us is sitting here saying, I'm the authority on portals and stargates on the planet and all the others. You know, we're not saying that. We're sharing what we know and bringing it together. And, you know, and it's all based on your experience, Kristen. Look what you did, Kristen, with your experience. You know, you got us on a round table with you, right? It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Thank you, all of you. Just your experiences, you know, and just being who you are on the planet right now. We all, you know, like I kept saying, like the world needs you. You know, they do. And it's been good to come out about this, because I'm noticing that my life has changed since that interview. Like I'm noticing that I feel more empowered to just be who I am as an envoy, you know, not as wear it like a title, but it's more like just embody that without having to put the, you know, the label behind it, because I don't like labels, but just being able to just be who you are, it changes how I interact with people on a daily basis. It's not just a personality to personality, ego to ego, you know, relationship. It's like I'm meeting them and I see things in them that maybe they don't see too. And I don't know, it's just very nice to know that there's more beyond this reality than what we think there is. And more people I'm talking to people at work, I'm talking to people all over the place, and you know what, they're waking up and they want to know this stuff. They really do. It's just, we're so close, I think, to that. If we haven't already tipped to the other side, maybe we have already. I don't know where we are in this, but it does feel like we're winning. Yeah. Even though it doesn't look that way.
We're transiting. We have a foot in one and the other, and more in the next step. And the transitions, the middle points, that's what the portals are. That's when we remember all who we are, and then the memory blanks just disappear and we remember everything. And it's so fascinating to be here.
It is. It so is.
So I mean that's been an amazing exchange, and well, people now will want to go to this beach, Kristen, and experience. And well, people, feel free to comment if you go there right under this video, and just tell us your experience, and maybe probably other people have had experience with portals. It's not only us. It's, I think, so many people, and more. So just let us share, and it's amazing. Dani, a last word.
I thank you, Elena, for inviting me today to your channel to sit with Chris and the lovely Kristen. Like I said, I'm delighted to add whatever I have experienced or believed I know into the field again to support the collective as we all support each other. And for everyone that does watch this, to also remember that you're really special too, and everybody has their place here, even if it doesn't seem obvious to you. Everybody is here for many different reasons, but there's none above another, and we're all here. And I just want to send you my love to everybody out there watching.
Thank you, Dani, and very beautiful words. And Chris, what would be your last word, please?
Well, I too, thank you very much for the invitation to be here and to sit with Kristen and have this conversation. And it's just, there's so many things to learn. There's so many people are becoming more awakened and becoming enlightened in their own soul, and understanding that there's so much more out there. It's so exciting to see people open up, because we don't have to be, hiding in the corner and quiet and silent anymore. There's fewer and fewer people that'll have anything negative to say. I find, like, all the time, people that I would not expect to be open to just hear things. And it's just a wonderful thing. And if you're in that experience right now, welcome to the family. We love you.
And well, I'm going to let the last word to Kristen, if you have something you want to add.
Well, thank you, Elena, for doing this and having us on. And thank you, Dani and Chris, for all of your wisdom too and experiences, because that it leads. There's more answers now, but there's also more questions, so that's good too. There's just more to dive into, but yeah, if other people have had this type of experience, it would be amazing to like you said, put that in the chat, or just talk about it, because once you go through something like that, it changes you forever. You're never the same person again, and you might find that it's more common than you would imagine. So it does happen, and let's just let's normalize the things that are not normal. Let's change that a little bit. But thank you so much, Elena, again, for your time and everything.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Kristen, for bringing your testimony and opening a portal to other testimonies and exchanges. And that's how we advance in knowledge. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Elena.
Yeah, thank you.